Hey yo, it's your girl, Zoe. Why did I introduce myself like that? Whatever, it's done now. Moving on. Have any of you ever been to the Emerald City? Well, I have multiple times because I live in that region since like 2003. So I've been down to Seattle quite a few times in my life, but also not as many considering how long I've lived in the region. I have a few stories of the times that I've been to downtown, so let's talk about those. Live shows. I've seen a few live performances on separate occasions. The first one I think I've mentioned in a past video, which was seeing the Nutcracker in a big fancy theater. There isn't a whole lot to mention besides that I was told I was going by my dad and stepmother. Then they proceeded to make fun of me for knowing what ballet is and being able to follow what happened in the show. Sorry for attempting to be cultured, I guess. This was years ago, and I remember the performance was fantastic. I mean, it did have like a huge butt. A huge butt. Why did I say I had a huge butt? In hesitation. It did have a huge budget and top-rated performers, so you know, that's no surprise really. I would love to go and see it again at some point, but I'm pretty sure that takes place in one of those theaters with like a dress code, and I really don't want to spend money on fancy clothes that I'll only wear once. Or maybe I'm just misremembering and I was forced to wear something fancy. I could Google it, but that sounds like a problem for me if I decide I actually want to go back when it is wintertime. The most recent live show I saw that was also in Seattle was in 2023, or was it 2024? Scribble Showdown After Dark. Pretty sure the date is on the poster behind me. The artists were Rubber Ross, Jaden Animations, The Odd One Out, and Domix. All people I have followed on YouTube at one point or another. I was quite excited to go. The theater itself was very fancy. It was a lot like it was a lot smaller than the Nutcracker, and that's to be expected, but I think that the style of the theater was something similar to like the Washington State Capitol, which is to say Greek/Roman. That's a problem for editing me to Google and confirm or deny. Anyways, it was a very impressive building. Due to the show being after dark, it was for adults only. That meant that there was a bar that I did not get any drinks from, sadly. I did have to drive myself home after all. And the artists were going to be drawing lots of Pinguses and honkin' Hondas as part of their comedy bits/challenges. Overall, it was very entertaining and I would go again. I have no idea if they intend to do more After Dark or just regular Scribble Showdown, but going to regular Scribble Showdown would also be fun, I believe. I did get myself a signed poster, which I said I have behind me, and I also got a t-shirt to commemorate the occasion. Live shows are honestly very fun, and if you have the opportunity to see one of something that you're interested in, I would recommend you go. The last memorable one was the 2022 Trophy Live show. First off, I was late to the show because I was driving up from south of Olympia because that's where I lived at the time, and as anyone knows who lives on the area, getting into Seattle through I-5 really kind of sucks. Basically, traffic that I didn't anticipate and my GPS didn't tell me about made me a few minutes late, which made me sad. That's fine though, because I saw the rest of the show. The vast majority of the show. Their recording setup failed during this show and their Thursday show, I believe, so there is no permanent record on YouTube like there is for the Sunday show, so I also got to see the highlights of that. There were plenty of really good drawings, but the one that I remember most is the Nasty Needle, which was a Jacob drawing of the Space Needle that he had to make nasty. I still remember the Nasty Needle looking down upon me as I was filled with revulsion. Affectionate. I also got to meet the Druffy crew and got a picture with them. That's what I based this first image on. I decided to draw everybody in the Newsday style because I didn't want to render 5 people. I am lazy, shut up, it's fine. Actually, it doesn't fit with the final image that you're gonna see because it is actually in a different style. I know. I'm just going to ignore that because I'm not gonna redo it. Speaking of redoing something, let's move on to the next thing. I say redo because I did an image like this before in my Actually Infected 2024 drawing challenge video. Basically, I was redrawing a photo I took when I went to the Space Needle for the first time. In that video, I kept it as a sketch and tried to make it look a bit creepy or weird, and I'm not sure how well I actually accomplished that, but that doesn't matter at this point in time. I was going to redraw it this time, except I didn't. The background of the original picture was of the city, so a bunch of skyscrapers in perspective. I attempted to shorthand it, but didn't like the way it was turning out, so I switched gears. Instead, I used a different picture for the background. It was of a building with 2 giant spiders on it. I'm pretty sure it's a Daddy Longlegs, and it was probably the Science Center or something like that. Unfortunately, I cannot confirm that. I could Google it. Maybe editing me will Google it and tell you. It could have just been a random building, though, that the owners really just liked spiders, which would be weird. I hate spiders. It's odd that I chose to draw this background with spiders in it, but most of the other photos kind of sucked or were of skyscrapers, which I didn't want to draw. So I went with this. As for the time in the Space Needle, I basically grabbed myself a snack and a hard cider and enjoyed the view. It was nice and relaxing. After the Space Needle, I went to the nearby Chihuly Garden of Glass. I hope I'm saying that name right, Chihuly? Well, I guess someone will let me know if I'm not, and I'm completely butchering it. And honestly, that was something to see. It was full of different kinds of glass sculptures, someone trying to make like an alien landscape, others were more familiar. The fact that someone could spend that amount of time shaping different colors of glass is amazing. I basically wandered through the exhibits reading about them and admiring the artwork. There was even a demonstration of someone making a small glass bead with, I think, a butterfly in it? I don't really remember what was in it. It might have been a flower. It's been a couple of years now. Anyways, it was all made of glass and it was super interesting to watch. I ended up getting the art book of all of the exhibits and the other works by the artist. It does what art books do and talk about like inspirations and just about the pieces in general, and it's a fun book to flip through. Honestly, it could make stuff for some pretty good references for like alien landscapes with like a huge diversity of plants. It's very cool. So lastly, we have Seattle Underground. It was something that I have been looking forward to for a very long time. Basically, I was planning on going with my mom, but we had unfortunate interruptions every time we tried to plan it. It was important family stuff each time, so I can't actually be mad, just a little bit disappointed. It took us about a year to actually plan a time to go and half the time to follow through. Thankfully, I only bought tickets the last time, so I didn't burn through a bunch of money. So, for those of you who don't know, Seattle was originally founded on a beach by someone who didn't know how tides worked, because they were born in the middle of America where there are no oceans. I think they were born in about the 1800s. Anyways, after discovering the beach was mostly flooded in high tide, the man stubbornly stayed. This created problems like soggy roads that they filled with sawdust to try and dry it out, and also they built their buildings out of wood because that's just a normal thing to do. Then the toilets came in. They were installed, and during low tide they functioned just fine. During high tide though, extra water built up in the pipes, creating a bunch of pressure, so whenever you flushed a toilet during high tide, a bunch of sewage exploded out of the toilet. Eventually, a fire got started and burned the wooden city and its sawdusty roads to the ground. When they rebuilt, they raised the roads about a story off the ground, so they would have good roads that are not soggy and full of sawdust, and they could have room to play the pipes to not have exploding toilets. Unfortunately, people had to rebuild while this construction was going on. So everybody had to have 2 stories to their building. The first floor would become the basement, and the second floor would become the first floor. This eventually led to the creation of Seattle Underground, all because of poo problems. Honestly, the tour guide explained it a lot better, and someone who talks about history on YouTube could also probably explain it a lot better. So if you want a non-oversimplified version of the history, then I would look elsewhere. The picture I was drawing was also based on two pictures. One was a selfie of my mom and myself that we took. We've been trying to get more pictures of us together, so we have some that aren't pre-transition me. Also, we forgot to take one during the tour. We are a couple of geniuses. So I just combined two different photos. One that is of one of the aforementioned exploding toilets, and the other was just of the selfie. So that's kind of about it for the Seattle Underground. So let's mention some honorable mentions. I have gone to several conventions over the years in Seattle, but I've also gone to some outside of Seattle. So instead of talking about those in this video, I figured I could do a future video where I talk about my experiences going to cons. Some buddies of mine have also invited me to a Slipknot concert, and that was actually a really good time. It was quite a wild performance with lots of pyrotechnics, and I don't really listen to Slipknot that often, so seeing their live show was quite a surprise because I had no expectations going in. I also remember going to a comedy show, but I have no idea who the comedian was, and it was a very long time ago. I think I might have been in middle school. Also, some elementary school field trips, I think to the Science Center. I don't really remember though. Again, it was a long time, and this is kind of why these are honorable mentions. Though I should go to the Science Center again because I do like learning about sciencey stuff. So that'll be a future trip. That about wraps it up. There's still stuff I want to do up there, like the zoo, aquarium, museums, Mopop, probably more concerts when they're in the area. Like I said a little bit ago, the Science Center. I also don't really go to a lot of concerts. I should change that. Anyways, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe for more. If you want to support me, you can do so on Ko-fi. Signing up to the art tier gets you downloads to full-size PNGs of all of my YouTube art starting in October, and a bunch of other art. So yeah, you could also just buy me a coffee on there, or you can get commissions through Ko-fi from me if that is also something you would be interested in. Anyways, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video that I make. Bye!